All right, kindergarten, so at this point you should have read Mirette on the High Wire. And I want you guys to notice that there's a lot of pictures in here that have different lines and different shapes going on. So notice here there's a lot of lines going up and down, and if I looked at Mirette's skirt over here, she has lines going up and down on hers, and she has lines going diagonally, which are going across. So what we're going to work on today is we're going to be cutting some paper strips out of 2 different colors of paper, and we're going to be gluing them down onto our plain white paper. Some are going to be going up and down, and some are going to be going diagonally. So when you get your 2 sheets of colored paper, you're going to make sure you cut up all of both of them, so the complete paper. So when you are using a pair of scissors, and if you are a righty, so if this is your hand, you put your thumb on top, and then you, in this little hole, and you put your other 2 or 3 fingers, whichever fit nicely, in that bigger hole. And then what I want you to make sure that you're doing when you are working with scissors is you always need to keep your thumb on top. So notice how my thumb's on the top, so I can chop, chop, chop. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to keep my thumb on top, and I'm going to open up my scissors really, really, really wide. And when I'm working on my paper and cutting it up, I'm going to make sure my paper goes all the way into this little spot. So I'm going to make sure my paper goes in there, and I'm going to chop. So I keep my thumb on top so I can chop, chop, chop. And every time I'm cutting, I'm opening up my scissors really, really wide and chopping them. And then I go back up to where I stopped cutting, really wide. Opening, closing, opening, closing. So I would cut up my whole blue paper, and then I would come back over to my other paper, opening up my scissors really, really wide and chopping down. Opening up really wide, chopping down. Really wide, chopping down. Really wide, chopping down. Okay. When you are done with your scissors, don't leave them open like this. Someone might hurt themselves. Close them up. Put them off to the side. All right. So now you have all these awesome paper strips cut up, and you're going to work on gluing them. So if I notice these paper strips are bigger than my paper, oh my goodness, what am I going to do? So what you're actually going to do is you're going to try to make them fit as best as you can on your paper, and some of them might be hanging off at the end, but we can trim them up with our scissors. So you're going to take your glue, and remember how we talked about the glue needs to have that little gap when it's open, so I twisted it open. And if there's a little dry piece of glue, you can pull that off and throw it in the trash. Okay, now when you're using glue, you flip it upside down, and you go dot, dot, not a lot. Dot, dot, not a lot. Did I pour my glue out? No. Then you want to make sure that your glue is standing up and not laying down when you're done with it. And then I'm going to flip it over. I might get some glue on the table, but that's okay. So I'm going to make my paper going straight across right now, side to side. So, dot, dot, not a lot. Dot, dot, not a lot. Stand my glue back up, and notice that I'm actually going to overlap some of my paper. It doesn't all have to be overlapped, but I'm going to overlap some of it. And then I'm going to go again, dot, dot, not a lot. Dot, dot, not a lot. Flip it over. Maybe I'm going to put this one up here. Okay, so maybe I'm happy with how many I glued from side to side. Now I can glue some going up and down. So I'm going to flip my paper over. And notice that when I'm doing my dot, dot, not a lot, I'm making sure that I'm doing it on the paper that I'm going to glue down. Not the paper where I'm gluing stuff down, but on the actual paper that I'm going to glue down. So the one that's not attached to the other ones yet. We'll do one more over here. Remember, dot, dot, not a lot. Dot, dot, not a lot. Stand up your glue. If you get glue on your finger like I just did, you can rub it together. And if you keep rubbing, see how it's starting to peel off like that? Just keep doing it, and it'll be off, and you don't even need a whiteboard to wash your hands. Overlap these over here, and I'm going to press them down. Notice when I'm pressing them down, I'm not smacking them. I'm just pressing them down lightly. And sometimes they move, that's okay. If glue's showing anywhere, that's okay also. It'll dry clear when we're done. And I'll put them on the drying rack. Okay, so the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use my papers to go diagonally. So diagonally means it's going from the top to the bottom. So I actually might go, so it's going like from one side of the paper to the other side of the paper. Do you guys see that? Okay, so my last one is I'm going to make it go diagonally. So I'm going to do my dot, dot, not a lot, dot, dot, not a lot. Notice I squeezed really hard there, so I didn't get my dots. It's okay if it doesn't go all the way across the paper. And I'm going to do one more going diagonally. And you can do whatever design you want with your strips, as long as you're keeping your paper strips together, so you're not chopping them up into little pieces. Okay. So when you're totally done with all of your 2 papers, you're going to flip your whole piece of artwork over. And just like last time, you're going to take this little piece of paper that says the book that we read, Mirette on the High Wire. Our focus is line and skill is cutting of paper strips and gluing them horizontally, diagonally, and vertically. So I'm going to put a little dot in each corner. I'm going to flip it over and glue it down, and the last thing I'm going to do is write my name. So you guys are going to write your name. I'm going to write Miss Martinelli, because that is my name. And at this point, you're totally done, and you can put your artwork on the drying rack. You can also trim these off if you want to, taking your scissors and trimming them, just a little bit like that. But remember, anything you cut off your paper, you need to make sure it gets into the recycling. Recycling is that blue trash can, or putting it in the trash can, and then I can put it in the recycling later. Okay, so I trim those off, and now when I'm done with my scissors, do I want to leave them open? No, put them down, make sure they're closed. Okay, so if you have any other questions, let me know.